All right, welcome back to Oregon Live at the Voice of College Football Network. I'm Owen Murray. That's John Evans. We're breaking down Oregon's rivalry win, 41-7 over the Oregon State Beavers at Autzen Stadium. 129th matchup between these two. Ducks didn't keep it close, and a little bit of concern before this one because Noah Whittington listed as questionable. He ends up not playing a snap for the second straight week, but Jaden Lamar gets a start second week in a row. He looks solid. We love D.R. Hill and Jordan Davis. And John, what is this running game? How concerned should Ducks fans be without Noah Whittington? At least fully healthy right now. Jaden Lamar seems like the guy.
Jaden Lamar's done a very solid job. He was really good today. 12 carries, 70 yards for him, almost 6 yards per carry. Last week it was a bit of a struggle on the ground, but it was across the board that Oregon's running backs didn't really have a lot of room to work with. Except for when D.R. Hill Jr. does get out on that big touchdown last week. I thought Jaden Lamar was fine last weekend. Working in replace of Noah Whittington was solid out there again today. Got things started, 22 yards on his first carry, showed some of that dynamicism that he has brought early this year, but it's just not what you want. You don't want Jaden Lamar to be your one. Not that he can't be that guy, but your team is so much better when Noah Whittington's your one, because then Jaden Lamar's your two. That Jaden Lamar's blocking a little bit more. You're using him in some of those disguises and stuff to get him, where you think he's out there to block for Whittington, then you throw him a screen pass or whatever. And Whittington also just does bring a level of explosiveness that Lamar doesn't have, that guys like Hill also bring to this offense, but it's hard to trust a true freshman out there at all times. Not that you don't necessarily trust D.R. Hill Jr., but I think the fact that he does get a lot of his touches from, coming on jet sweeps and reverses and stuff like that does speak to, they don't want him out there necessarily just being that regular running back in 11 personnel and then having a pass block on third downs and stuff like that. I don't know if you trust a freshman in the way you would trust a 6-year guy in Noah Whittington. So you want him back because it just opens everything up for the offense. It just takes everything to the next level by kicking everybody down a peg, because he can, be that explosive playmaker when this team needs it. Not that Jaden Lamar can't, but when Whittington's out there gashing these teams for 11 yards a carry, I think is what he's averaging early so far this year in those first two games. When Lamar comes in as a change of pace, or when Davison comes in as a change of pace, or when they're in to block for him, it just makes him so much more threatening out there.
Yeah. Yep. And we don't know what Noah's status is. All we've heard, I think, is a lower body injury, correct?
I haven't heard about that specifically. Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me. Although we did see him, he participated.
He was warming up.
He participated in warm up drills and stuff like that. But then they went to the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 periods in warm ups. Then he was off to the side, not getting any reps during those. So if the Ducks can have him back for Penn State, I do think that just raises their floor. Exactly.
They've got ceiling raisers in this running back room. It's so deep, and they've got guys who can make explosive plays. But he just feels like he raises the floor of this room. He's a guy who's gonna get against Penn State. He's a guy who can get you 3 or 4 yards a carry consistently. And it feels like there's sometimes that Jaden Lamar or some of these freshmen, or Mekhi Hughes or Dink Riggs just maybe get stifled and they can get shut down a little bit. We haven't seen Noah Whittington against a great run defense yet. But
we haven't seen much of Noah Whittington at all, because he didn't really have to play that much against Montana State or Oklahoma State, because he was gashing them for big gains early. So,
but you would obviously you'd hope to have him back for that Penn State game. I was curious just a little bit. My Jordan Davison minute, he got a little bit more run today off the goal line. He obviously has been the Ducks goal line back. But somebody on Twitter, it might have been Zach Neal, was saying he's just got a little bit of wiggle when he gets a carry on 2nd and 8. What did you see from him there? I'm excited. It makes me excited to see him get those carries.
Yeah, I think he moves pretty better in space than you'd expect for someone who is. I don't know if he actually has 236 pounds. That's what he's listed at. That's huge for a running back.
He looks that big, man.
He does look like a bowling ball down there. But like you said, he does have a bit more wiggle than you would expect for someone his size. And he looked pretty good today at certain times when he did get out in space. And I think another thing that this team really likes with him is his blocking, because he has that size in the blocking game. But last week I noticed that he really was in a lot of the similar the same 21 personnel looks that they do give to Jaden Lamar to get him blocking for those other running backs, and for Noah Whittington. They used a lot of that with Jordan Davison, and I saw it again today where he was out there to pass block a couple times. They ran that same load counter play today that they ran for Hill's big touchdown last week, where Davison was the lead blocker on that. And then there's another one too where they go 21 personnel, put him basically off the ball in a bunch, almost in like the tight end spot, and then ran him as the sift blocker to run inside or to run split zone. So it's telling where they just put him in these positions where they can use him as a weapon, as a blocker, and I think that's going to continue to get him on the field. And then from there, it's going to be the same the one we saw from Jeremiah McClellan against Oklahoma State, where you fake the sift block on the split zone, and then head out into the flats, and Moore's going to dump it off to Davison and let him rumble after that. So he's going to continue that blocking is certainly going to keep him on the field this season. And then from there, it's going to be opening things up with some of the surprise packages and some of the surprise plays off of it, where you're only really scouting him as a goal line back, and then all of a sudden he's got the ball in space and he's able to pick up 20 yards or something.
Yeah. I'm going to give a little bit of flowers to J-Mac too, who's also been a phenomenal downfield blocker. Early this season, he gets his first touchdown catch as a Duck. He gave a big smile when he got asked about it. And I thought that was really fantastic. He's a happy dude. Where does he fit in this receiver room? Obviously, Oregon is down. Evan Stewart still. He's really earned himself some reps with his blocking, with some really solid route running, just to become a guy who seems a little bit beyond his age here. He feels like a vet in the way he works for this team. Where does he land in terms of this season that keeps going?
Yeah, so because Justice Lowe is out right now, Lowe did not. He warmed up but didn't play against Northwestern last week. We didn't see him out there for warmups again today.
List is out.
Yeah, but he seems to be dealing with something right now. So that has moved McClellan as to kind of solidifying that third outside receiver spot behind. It's been early. It's been Moore as the X, McClellan and Malik Benson rotating at C, that other like kind of off the ball outside receiver. And then Justice Lowe had been worked, some of the backing up DeCorian Moore, working with some of those other guys. Those had been the four guys in the outside, and then Kyler Casper was that fifth guy. So now with Lowe out, it really has been McClellan this week, especially as that number 3 receiver on those outside sets. And like you said, he has given that effort in the blocking, and you can see they use him specifically, like they design plays that he is pulling as a blocker, and they're running this play behind him. Because they trust him to be a blocker there. And then, it's something that Stein has done a really good job at, is rewarding those players for that hard blocking. And it continues to just, it cycles. The harder they block, then the player's able to catch a touchdown, then the harder they're going on and keep blocking out there the next time they have an opportunity to block, so that they can, catch the ball again. And McClellan's a really good example of that. And had a really good game today, as that other outside receiver. And I think we'll continue to see more of him getting that usage out there, next to Benson and next to Moore. I think Benson will continue to be that number one, that other number one on the outside besides Moore, just because of the speed dynamic that he brings and his ability to take the top off the defense. But McClellan's a guy who you can throw some of those jump balls to a little more. Although we did see Benson. We
go up for that one.
There's back shoulder catches today, but Malik Benson, that I honestly was more impressed by that one than either a DeCorian Moore. So that was just ridiculous body control on that one. So Oregon's receivers, it's a bit concerning right now, the lack of depth they have, because you do have some of these guys dealing with these injuries. But the guys they have, they trust out there and they feel comfortable with going forward.
Yeah, and also kind of in the passing game, I felt like there were a lot more designed looks for Kenyon Sadiq today, even if they didn't connect on all of them. He's been a guy that they've used way more in the blocking game. He had a touchdown against Northwestern. But it felt like he hadn't had a lot of looks through 3 weeks, and then he really popped out today. Where he's obviously a huge weapon. He can be the go-to guy on third and long, just because of his ability to beat guys off the line and be a mismatch player. Where does he fit in? What do you see from him today? Where does he land?
Yeah, led the team today, 7 targets, tied his career high with 4 catches on the day, set a new career high with 60 yards, and then obviously scoring that touchdown. You can't let a guy like that get open on a wheel route. That's a bad coverage play by Oregon State. But I thought you continued to see him really settle into more of being that comfort option for Dante. He had a couple of catches on like third down to convert the chains. Where he's just kind of settling and able to let Dante find him over the middle. but I think he really could. He leads the team in targets today, and I think we could continue to see that be a trend throughout the rest of the season. Because I just don't think they were scheming things up for him really in those first couple of weeks, because he obviously has been dominant as a blocker. They didn't really feel like they needed to. I think pound for pound, he's probably the best weapon on this team. Decorian Moore could certainly give him an argument, but they want, Will Stein has a feed the studs mentality. As a coach, he wants to get the ball in his best players' hands as much and as early and as often as he can, and he was doing that with Sadiq today, and I think it's something that they kind of wanted to get Sadiq in that kind of role where he is the number one receiver a little bit more today before they head to Penn State, where, he could be a guy they really rely on next week to kind of pick up those third downs, move the ball down the field, and then when they have those opportunities, create explosives, because he can from the tight end position.